Good morning or good afternoon to all here. My name is Leo Levian. I'm a civil applications expert over here at Imagine Technologies. Joining in the background here is also Randy. He's a part of our civil team. He's going to be helping me answer some questions here, hopefully at the end if we're not able to get to them or if I get stumped on something. So everyone welcome. Let's jump right on in here. And like Ashley said, we will be recording this. You'll have a link for it. Everyone is muted, and we'll have a little Q&A at the end. And overall, just the agenda of today, taking a look at really what's available in the collection, maybe what's right for you, and trying to share what you have available for you. Because when you get into it, you'll see a lot of software that you have access to, like what you see here. You may not use it all. You may not even know that you had access to these pieces of software because there's just so much inside of the collection. Over 30 pieces of software that you'll be able to use, both physical and cloud-based technology that you may have access to. You own it all. It's really, as part of a collection, it's all there, but you have to make sure that you install it or download or run it. For some of these elements, they're about the licensing is more user-based, so whoever's managing your licenses may need to just check a box on their side to make sure you have access to all these pieces of software. And for any one of these pieces of software, I could spend hours demoing, speaking about even basic vanilla AutoCAD and what's available in it to any one of our design pieces of software. But our focus today is really going to be on a handful of these and really see how much you could potentially be using today on the civil side. And that is potentially taking a peek at InfraWorks and what that allows us to take a look at conceptual design and perhaps analysis for it. Civil 3D will take a peek at it and see what we're able to do there. A civil-based platform that's based on top of AutoCAD. Autodesk Docs, which gives us that cloud-based environment and see what features we have there. We're not going to be able to demo all of this from beginning to end, but just bits and pieces. Navisworks specifically to see what we're going to be able to do. It's a great little piece of software that allows us to bring in a lot of data as an option here. And Recap Pro, which allows us to really get into the reality capture and scanning. So those are the few pieces of software that we're going to be talking about today. I could spend time in a lot of these pieces of software. There's a lot of documentation available out there, but this is just going to be a little live show on these handful of softwares here for our civil industry. And the first one we're going to be talking about here is Recap Pro, dealing with scans and how are the recent updates helping you or could help you. And when I say recent, I don't mean just 2024. What we're going to be talking about here is the ability that we have to deal with scans. And in 2023, we had something that was awesome. We were able to load our scans to Autodesk Docs. And without having the software actually installed, as long as you were part of a particular project, you would go in there and view and mark up and take a look at that scan without having to have the physical software installed on your machine. With that, Recap Pro in 2023, the actual installed application allowed you to classify data. And that became even better in the 2024 release because now Recap, through its own algorithm, can sort through the data. And even though a scan wasn't classified at the moment of collection, Recap will do its best guess in trying to figure out what is a ground point for us. And with that, we will then be able to create surfaces. Now, 23.1 allowed us to put our point clouds on the cloud with the docs functionality, but new to 2024 is really hot here. And there was a release of this in InfraWorks a couple years back where you were able to take clouds and extract line work. But now we're able to do it within the cloud itself in the process recap scan or project, and we're able to delineate locations, which would be our curbing here. Right now, it really works for curbing features, which can be also islands or little Jersey barriers here. The awesome part about this, we can call out these points, we can name them, and because we're using the power of the cloud, we don't have to sit here and wait for our machine to do anything. This is on the docs portion. And what that allows us to do is to name and extract this line work. And it works for the cloud only. Hopefully in the future, we'll get more feature line extraction to be able to pull things like pavement markings, but it works really neatly for curbing right now. And, that's what I'm going to talk about here right now real quick with recap. Now, the really awesome power of recap is the fact that when we start dealing with scans, let me jump over here to recap, is the fact that you may be dealing with very, very large scans, and the data may or may not have been classified. So I'm looking at a scan that was pulled here for me. And as you notice, that may or may not have been classified. Now, what the software allows me to do is with the software here, I can run this automatic classification, and it looks for ground points. So if I switch this on over, this has already been classified. You'll notice here that trees and cars have been parsed out for me. And what I get here automatically is the option to take these unclassified points and turn them off, and take this scan, because I still have both unclassified and classified ground shots. What you would want to do here is take this point cloud and save it out and export it just with your ground shots. So that's really neat that we're able to do this now and take it directly into Civil 3D. I very much enjoy this functionality that I have here. Now, what we're also able to do within this release of the software is deal with trying to do line work extraction. Now, if you try to deal with line work extraction here, it's not going to work with what you have stored locally. So let me go ahead and open up here the road rehab project that I have. And this is the point cloud that I'm going to be working with on the cloud to do line work extraction. You can see that this scan was picked up in color. And we can focus on the curbing shown here. Now, the technology that I'm going to share with you here is not going to be based upon the Recap Pro installed software. I'm going to grab the same cloud and work on it on the Autodesk Docs, on the Autodesk Cloud system. And what I'm able to do here is, if I open up Docs, here's where I have this road rehab being picked up, and there's the RCP file, and I'm able to open it up and take a look at that same cloud. Now, the really awesome part about Recap is as this opens up, we are dealing with a very large scan here. We're dealing with all these scans here for this entire roadway, which if I take a look at this, it's about 3 gigs worth of data. And what the software does is takes us 3 gigs worth of data and it allows us to see that scan put together for me. Now, I was showing this off a little bit earlier. I was playing with this and I was doing a little bit of line work extraction. You can see a little bit of line work that was already extracted here for me. As I take a look at this, it shows linear extractions and it gives me the lines that I have readily available. And it shows them labeled out as back of curb, top of curb, flow line, edge of pavement, and color-coded here. This works on the cloud service. So if you wanted to show this off real quick here, I can do that and just go over here and start looking at creating perhaps more line work. I'm just going to get myself lined up with the 3D view here. And what I'm able to do is start looking at linear extraction. And what I would like to do here is start looking at being able to pull more of this data. So I have the ability to start looking at the linear extraction. It's going to tell me, hey, where do I want to do this extraction? And I'm trying to push this plane here on the screen, and I can get it as perpendicular to that face as possible, and it analyzes those points for me. There are the points that it saw. And the important part here is to start dragging and dropping these points as I see fit. So that particular section is here. I can start taking these points and show my top and pan it out to maybe my flow line, and pan on out here to maybe my edge of pavement or curb break line there. And you can see how those points get selected here for me. As I build that typical cross section, I have the ability of calling it done. It's going to run down the list and trying to process that line work for me as best as it can to create my feature lines for me on the screen here, that linear extraction. I then have the option of analyzing that design, and it failed on me. Let's see, come on, buddy. Should have created my new lines here. It gives me the ability of assigning that plane. Oh, come on, man. Well, it goes through the line and starts connecting the dots for me as, well, my initial example here. And when it gets to the end, it does give me an option to figure out what's going to happen here next, rebuild that typical cross section. And it does have settings as I'm looking at this for the threshold from being able to determine what string of points should be connected. And this is all based upon the cloud, so you're not really letting your machine chug through these numbers to try to process this line work. This line work can then be chosen to be exported and work within the software. So I can create simple XML files. I can choose to export this and build up a file set for me here. And what happens then inside of Civil 3D, I can see these. So if I jump over here to Civil and take a look at perhaps bringing this information here, I want to show the fact that I'm going to be potentially bringing in this cloud. And if I show that here, I can say, let's bring here on the insert, and I can bring in that same cloud that was looking at road rehab there. And again, it's a small file. Although I'm dealing with potentially thousands and thousands of scanned points, this file that I'm creating is relatively small. And as I run through this, yes, I may have left and right and edges. As I start and stop the collection, you may have several features that get collected for you. And it's really all about using land XML to bring this information in. So to start looking at that, I have the ability of looking at all these features as they were brought in. And as I select that, it brings them in. It brings in feature lines for me. Has those names that I gave it, the back of curb, top of curb. I can choose not to bring any of those features in, but as I hit OK, it brings them in for me. And I can see that line work on screen here. They are feature lines. So within the software here in the settings tab, I have the road rehab, and I have the feature lines that were created for me. So there's my naming that I gave it on the cloud side for those key points. So I do have the piece of software called Recap that allows me to bring in the scans. I use the web to be able to connect line work, to then be able to name my actual line work here and stylize them. And then I'm able to bring this back into Civil 3D and connect all the dots. So that's the new feature available with Recap, which has been available for a while now. And Civil 3D is only able to handle scans or clouds that have been processed through Recap. So Recap is the platform that we will be dealing with scans, and it has been available for a while. But that is the new function of Recap in this latest release in the 2023.1 to 2024. So hopefully you're going to be able to see this feature grow and future releases to be able to do a little bit more with the cloud-based technology. All right, let's see what else we have going on here. Navisworks. Not a lot of people are using Navisworks, but it's a great platform to bring a lot of design data together. And it works great to visualize and get a sense of what's happening. With the newer feature in 2024 is the fact that we're now able to really leverage alignment data from Civil 3D so it understands station and offset. So as an engineer may need to get data from a live model, you don't have to go through it and have to wait for a tech to be able to give you design data. You're going to be able to pull it directly in from Navisworks as you read these files in. Now, Navisworks can do a little bit more. It does that not only bringing in being alignment aware. As you're measuring, there's an option of giving a distance, but also doing a single point measure from within the Civil software here, and navigate through those cross sections as you start pulling the data that is readily available for you from the model that you're loading. It is alignment aware in this release and allows you to navigate from one alignment to the next really easily. Now, with Navisworks, you are going to be able to do a little bit more. With the latest improvements, you're going to be able to bring in properties and controlling what you're seeing through not only XREF, but other platforms. So that's really what Navisworks allows me to do. So if you are working with, for example, architects or other contractors, in this case, one thing it mentions here is advanced steel. So you're going to be able to bring in those models in this platform. So maybe AutoCAD or Civil is not able to take in those files. Navisworks will, which includes bringing in imagery or bringing in FBX files, 3D models. It's a great platform to bring everything together, and year after year gets a little bit more control, a little bit more options, a little bit more properties that you're able to read from within the Navisworks platform. Along with being able to integrate a lot of the data, what we're also able to get is a little bit more feedback on what's happening, if there's any errors or omissions, or more specifically updates. It'll give you a little bit more insight into what's happening from within Navisworks. And all really I wanted to do inside of Navisworks is open it up, and the fact that I can go here, file open, and I have access to so many file formats. So it's a great platform to bring in data and start reviewing it. And as I start looking at Navisworks here, I have just a drawing that I brought in. And in this release, I do have what looks like a subdivision. And what I have is the ability to start working here with the alignments that were loaded in this design. And as I start looking at my alignments inside of here, I have that show alignment option. And the second part to it is the camera controls, which is going to be really important. That allows us to go to a particular station as I'm going to the first or secondary alignment inside of here. So to start looking at a particular station, I can type it in, and it will take me directly to that particular station. I can navigate through the list there from one station to the next as I'm working with this toolbox here. It's new in this release, so you might find it a little bit cumbersome to work with, or being able to adjust your view, your angle, your elevation at this particular station. I like what we're able to do because Navisworks is now a little bit more alignment aware, so just trying to pull data is great from in here. Now, what I'm also able to do is also get measurement information inside of here. There is the option to start looking at pulling measurements. And I can do a point-to-point measurement, which is great. I'm able to look at one station out to the next station out here. This drawing happens to be in meters, so it's giving me information based upon the data that I see there. It can give me that tool set here. Let me make sure that my measure panel is open. Here we go. So this panel here just tells me from beginning to end, tells me the start and the end, and it gives me alignment information from where I'm beginning and ending. Now, what's new in this release is that this the option for measuring has been here for a while, but the fact that it's pulling alignment information, and in this release, I have the ability of doing a single point extraction. So if I have a singular point that I would like to look at, it gives me the data for that singular point that I'm trying to get data from. And again, with the measuring panel here, it tells me the location, and it gives me alignment data for that singular point that I'm looking at. So maybe if you don't have AutoCAD loaded and running, or maybe if you don't want to give people AutoCAD to be able to modify, make changes to your design, they're in this case just reading and pulling data using a simple software such as Navisworks. InfoWorks is another package that's model-based, and we can do a lot. We can pretty much tell a story here in context and give us a little bit of a storytelling side of InfoWorks. And in 2023.1, there was a nice update that was called clipping. It's not creating necessarily cross sections. You create a plane where you can actually clip data and slice through whatever models may be readily available out there. You can isolate geometry. You can just take the entire model and slice it. Really, really awesome tool set. Now, also from within InfoWorks, what we got now here is the measuring tool, where we're able to get, yes, we've also had the ability to measure, but the single point measure is really what was introduced here to be able to get data, and you can annotate on screen here. You can see in this case, slicing a bridge through here, because bridges have been something that Autodesk has been working a lot in the last releases to be able to give us the option of designing. There's a whole workflow set for this, and InfoWorks really also leverages the use of trying to show all these design parameters in place. And for bridges is a good example, being able to take the ability of reading these custom parameters from custom parts that are built in something like Inventor or Revit, and be able to show those on here. And well, talking about Revit here, we do have support for these extra Revit families, whether it's a 2D or 3D based element. We're able to pull that component into InfoWorks, and in this particular case being shown off as being bridge based, to be able to take that element and then extrude it down your design to be able to create bridges and barriers and really all kinds of components from within the software. Specifically for Revit, we have refined category mapping, so it's able to look at the subcomponents of Revit elements or subcomponents of Inventor elements. So it can take a look at all those features with the added functionality that it likes, and not only inside of InfoWorks, but in other packages, we have seen a more awareness or a better way to update with, and I'm going to use the word external references or external features. That way, if anything is modeled or changed in another platform, we can easily tie to it. And we see that happening across a lot of Autodesk platforms. And just to talk about InfoWorks here just a little bit here, here's an InfoWorks model that I have with a little bridge coming across. And what I want to show inside of here is the fact that that slicing is really, really awesome. The fact that I can just take my design inside of here and choose to create a clipping plane or show my clipping plane. And it's going to ask me where do I want to put this here. The little blue arrowhead there is really what's going to give me that slice. And as I add in that slice here on screen, that's where everything stops. And it pretty much clips my entire model. I can see that clipping happening here because it has a little blue arrowhead, and that was a new update at the end of 2023.1. A nice little update that I have here. And here's my slice. Maybe we'll take a look at that and delete it and no longer have it. I do have a bridge that I have here. The bridge knows how it's disappearing on me, these bridge components. As I look at them, it's actually part of InfraWorks where I'm choosing to show or hide components from the bridge itself. So you have the ability of, yes, it does have the top of the road, it has the girders inside of here, but inside of InfraWorks this has been available for a while where I could have the ability of showing specific components, and I can make my life a little bit easier by being able to see through them. Now, the update in this particular release is being able to take a look at data inside of here. And yes, we've always been able to do measurements, but the point elevation is what's new in this year release here. And I can just pretty much pop a point here and give me the elevation of a particular location on the screen. So as I'm pulling this design, whether it was from Civil or from the inventor or from the structural package, and I'm creating this particular case of bridge here, you can see how I'm able to annotate and pull information. So it's a great way to pull the design in context. That's what InfraWorks is really about, but being able to also pull real data from your design models inside of here. There's a lot that I can do from within really all these packages that ship with the software. And this was a really quick show and tell of what the Civil collection can do. We can spend, if you are interested in getting a more detailed demonstration or having a more detailed conversation of any of these, it's something that we could definitely put together for you or your team. Thank you, guys.